In space, no one can hear you scream. This was a phrase that changed the landscape of two film genres simultaneously. When the original Alien was released in 1979, the world was exposed to a hybrid film unlike anything that came before it. By merging science fiction, body horror, and slasher into one nearly perfect blend, Fox had unknowingly stumbled into one of the most iconic franchises in media history. And like a corrupt corporate dairy farm, they began milking it for all it was worth. Sequels, spin-offs, crossovers, video games, comics, you name it. This was a brand they were willing to attach to anything regardless of quality simply to make a quick buck. Which brings us to Alien Earth, a show that nobody asked for that once again is rewriting the ever-expanding, overly complicated mythos that is xenomorph lore. But this time, it's by Disney.
Oh, there's a fucking surprise.
So is it worth your time, or is it just another in the long line of shitty cash grabs like Prometheus, Covenant, and most recently Romulus? Let's do a little research on the specimen, shall we? The show opens up with text explaining that in the future, the race for immortality will come in three guises. Cybernetically enhanced humans known as cyborgs, artificially intelligent beings known as synths, and synthetic beings downloaded with human consciousness known as hybrids. Whichever one comes out on top will determine which corporation will rule the universe. But if the historical battle between Blu-ray and HD DVD taught us anything, it honestly will just boil down to whichever one the adult film industry chooses.
I want to make $1.01 in this business.
The episode proper opens up on a scene that's basically wholesale lifted directly from the beginning of the first movie, as we find ourselves on the Weyland-Yutani vessel the Maginot in the year 2120, which is 2 years before the Nostromo incident. The ship is returning from a 65-year journey, which actually means that it predates the Nostromo by a shit ton, but for some reason still has the exact same technology. Waking up from cryosleep, we meet our incredibly diverse crew as they sit around the breakfast table smoking like it's 1956. They then decide to discuss the only thing that people seem to ever want to talk about when they're eating in these movies or TV shows, socioeconomic breakdowns of the world.
Say that's Weyland-Yutani.
That's us.
Yeah, and they control North and South America.
And the moon, right?
No. Yutani has Mars and Saturn.
There's 4 companies. They govern the entire globe.
Don't forget the new one, Prodigy.
Since AI started by a kid maybe 10 years ago.
Boy Cavalier.
Youngest trillionaire ever.
Right.
I love how this younger dude has been working for this company for at least 6.5 decades and knows absolutely shit about it.
We were talking about the Earth, who rules what. The kid hasn't done his social studies.
Also, the old guy has a ton of knowledge that he shouldn't about a company that was founded in the middle of this mission. As was with the first film, it's very clear that everyone on board has a specific role, and I for one thoroughly look forward to learning about each one of them individually, which will surely happen. Turns out that this mission was a deep space science expedition, which apparently consisted of gathering a bunch of highly dangerous species and transporting them back to Earth with minimal safety precautions. Species including deadly bugs, plants, and some very familiar eggs. How the fuck these people found and transported all this shit without cryo-freezing and no one awake to maintain it is not explained, and probably a cooler story that we will never know. After finishing breakfast, about 3/4 of the crew decide to go back into cryosleep with only 4 months left before they reach Earth. Which begs the question why the fuck they even woke up to begin with.
Fuck if I know.
On Earth, we see Prodigy Research Facility Neverland as we join cancer patient Marcy and Timothy Olyphant in his best Billy Idol cosplay. Marcy is scheduled to become the first consciousness to be uploaded into a synthetic body.
Is it gonna hurt? Told you, it's just like falling asleep.
By the way, I'm really not sure what the fuck this dude is doing, but he shows up again later doing the exact same thing in the same spot. It's actually quite convenient that no one bothered to explain this process to Marcy at any point before this, because now we get to hear it for the first time along with her. Marcy is led into the lab by Dame Sylvia and is shown her soon-to-be body, which she decides will be named Wendy. We then meet Boy Cavalier, the owner of Prodigy, the youngest trillionaire in history, and likely a sexual predator based on his Peter Pan obsession.
Do you want to see a magic trick? It's pretty cool.
I guess lucky she didn't choose Snow White as a name. Explaining to Marcy that she will soon be the first to transition to a synthetic body, we get a sudden sense of dread that it's going to be some of that oh-so-subtle Disney messaging we become accustomed to, instead of the much more philosophical question of what defines a human. As the process of transfer begins, Marcy is reminded that all of this is highly confidential.
Because it's a secret.
what we're doing.
Man, I'm getting some real weird fucking vibes off of all this secretive shit involving kids. They complete the memory transfer in practically no time at all, and we see the now sentient Wendy on the beach where she displays enhanced physical capabilities in terms of strength, speed, and stamina. All things that are way more advanced than what we will see from Ash in a couple years, might I add. Being summoned by Dame Sylvia for a meeting, they are joined by Billy Idlefint as they both debrief Wendy about her new body.
Your breasts, they're weird. They move around when I run.
You are in an adult body now.
What the fuck?
Okay, moving on. They also explain that her lack of emotion is due to the fact that she's no longer producing hormones, all while Peter Pansexual creepily watches them.
If I'm not human, what am I?
Whatever you want to be.
Once again, very subtle. Wendy is then informed that they have acquired more terminally ill children for transition. Another incredibly diverse group consisting of a black kid, an Indian, a Maori, a cripple, and a ginger who doesn't have a soul anyway, so she should fit right in with a robot body.
Bubble, you can't say that.
In a quick montage, we see them all transition into their adult synth bodies because apparently the mind transfer is about as complicated as heating up a Hot Pocket in the microwave. Back in space, we see the Maginot approaching Earth. Clearly shit has gone tits up as we witness the ship's android Morrow communicating with Mother, refusing to let one of the crew members in. The xenomorph then moonwalks back to the fucking door. You've been struck by a smooth criminal. And turns its attention towards Morrow, who is still communicating with Mother about how a collision with Earth is unavoidable. Never mind that they are out well beyond the moon as shown just a few moments ago, and the fact that the engines are working just fine. Oh, and need I remind you that Mother is an AI that can literally fly the ship? Nah, gotta crash. No chance of stopping that shit. Now, I'm no genius. My old report cards will tell you that, but one subject I did do well in was geometry. And one thing I can recall from my incredibly vague memories made hazy from excessive tequila and multiple concussions is that over a great distance, such as hundreds of thousands of miles, even the slightest angular change will exponentially increase, which means simply turning off one engine would solve this entire issue. But since this shit is apparently inevitable, let's go check in on the future crash site. New Siam, a city controlled by Prodigy, and going by the name we could assume it's where modern-day Bangkok would be. Heh, Bangkok. We are introduced to Joe DiMaggio Hermit, and no, that's not a name I just made up. He's Wendy's brother and a medic for Prodigy's private army, whose namesake is due to his family's baseball obsession. He fills his boring existence listening to old recordings of games played years ago and watching Ice Age.
Or face my fury!
We get it, Disney. You own Fox now. You do not need to flex every fucking chance you get. At least the movie does hold some significance, as Joe and Wendy used to watch it as kids. Not exactly sure why they'd be watching a 100-year-old movie, but whatever. The next morning, Joe reports to his station at Prodigy's PMC, which apparently has absolutely no uniform and physical standards, as they're doing typical soldier shit like lifting weights while smoking, as if it was a state prison yard. Entering Earth's atmosphere from above, the Maginot clips the side of the building that they're standing on before casually crashing into a nearby apartment complex. Wait a minute! You're telling me that this enormous spacecraft weighing God knows what crashed down to Earth and only caused minimal damage to a single building? Seriously? Okay, let's look at everything wrong here. First of all, why the hell isn't this thing burning up from re-entry?
I don't know.
It's not even a little crispy. It wasn't just falling from gravity, it was literally using engines to accelerate. It wouldn't just be on fire, this shit would be melting. Not to mention there would be flaming debris flying everywhere. Second, speaking of falling debris, how did not a single person from the PMC get hit with any of the shit falling from the building directly above their heads?
I don't know.
Seems like an insane amount of luck or ungodly levels of plot armor, which is weird considering they're all just cannon fodder. Last and certainly not least, how the fuck did this ship, which need I remind you couldn't be slowed down, stopped, or redirected, only have enough kinetic force from re-entry to be stopped by a single building?
Okay, I am gonna go ahead and hit you with an... I don't know.
This is easily the size of a cruise liner, and those average 140 million pounds. This crash wouldn't just take out some of an apartment building, it would have cratered the fucking Earth and literally killed hundreds of thousands of people, possibly kicking off an extinction level event. Anyway, the PMC is mobilized with Diversity Division taking point. The mission is to locate survivors, evacuate the wounded, and secure the site. Which of course doesn't require any type of emergency equipment or anything, instead it calls for a single medic and heavy firearms. I mean, look at this poor motherfucker running around on fire.
I can't believe this, man. We suck.
I'm sure an automatic rifle is going to remedy this situation. So this is one of those things that separates a word assembler from a screenwriter. A word assembler just puts shit together with no logical planning involved. We, the audience, know that a xenomorph is free and these soldiers are gonna encounter it. And because of the older films, we also know that guns kill xenomorphs. The reason why the first film worked with a single Xeno was because they were horribly underprepared for the situation. But a group of heavily armed individuals would take out a single Xeno no problem once they were made aware of its existence and could see it. Now a screenwriter, on the other hand, would have used the situation to handicap the soldiers by having them lightly armed and focusing on search, rescue, and triage. We saw something similar to this in Aliens with the non-lethals upon first contact. This is how you create tension without sacrificing logic. The PMC proceeds to search the building to try and locate survivors, which is honestly a huge portion of the rest of this, so I'm just gonna highlight my favorite attempt to see if a person is actually alive.
Can you hear me?
A subgroup which consists of Joe, soldiers named Hoyt, Anant, Rashidi, and this DEI hire, Siberian, all break off to venture into the crashed ship. I love that her name is Siberian because that's what I picture when I think of Eastern Asia, a black chick with the same braids as Osha from The Acolyte.
I never met a black Russian before. I get that a lot.
In the Mother control room, we see rogue cyborg Morrow escape the crash room and wander out to see the rest of the crew completely dead. Morrow tells Mother to inform Weyland-Yutani that the ship has crashed and been boarded, which is something I'd assume they already fucking know.
This is the Federation of Gay Planets. Open your docking bay and prepare to be boarded.
Back at Neverland Ranch, Wendy is undergoing more tests when her naturally inquisitive nature gets the better of her.
Why don't you have kids?
But I have a low sperm count. It's a funny word.
Isn't a sperm what comes out of a boy and then goes into the girl?
Dude, you are talking to a child. Well, as that insane display of inappropriateness is going on, she looks up and notices her brother at the crash site. Wendy decides to volunteer her and the other synths, now dubbed the Lost Boys, to go aid the search and rescue.
But you're not all boys. So? But I guess it doesn't really matter.
Despite the clear conflict of interest and the absolute retardation of sending children into an active military situation, Peter Pansexual decides that it's a good idea to test them and recover whatever they can from Weyland-Yutani.
You can follow orders, right?
Sir, yes, sir.
Armed with nothing but a fucking stuffed animal and the blade of a paper cutter that Wendy had for some fucking reason, they are off to save the day. On the ship, Hoyt and Anant come across the specimen room, and as they are investigating, Hoyt some the fuck how doesn't feel this hamster-sized bug crawling into his suit. As they leave, they are held at gunpoint by Morrow and handcuffed to poles in the lab. Morrow then leaves to go hunt down the xenomorph, leaving the two least aware soldiers in history tied up. As the retards sit there and try to reach their knives to escape, the fucking super tick comes out of Hoyt's suit and begins to suck all the blood out of his body.
Hey! Stand up! Oi! Oi!
Why it waited this long is beyond me, but I guess this insect has a sense of dramatic timing. Probably because it went to acting school like many of the other parasites in Hollywood. Soon after, another one descends from the ceiling and finishes off Avant as well.
Sucks to be you. You win. It sucks to be you.
En route to the drop point, Billy Idlefin explains the history of the human race to Wendy and how we went from a source of food to top of the food chain due to our ingenuity. But that there is always something waiting to take the place of the top dog. And I thought that Ironheart was Anvilicious. Wendy responds that her brother won't die, despite Idlefin reminding her about illness, injury, and old age. But fuck that, she's gonna save him, and the episode fades to Black Motherfucking Sabbath. Are you the parent or custodian of an ungrateful shitbag?
Are you the legal guardian of John Connor?
Can't wait for that annoying fucker to get a job and leave your house, but unfortunately for you, they're still too young for legal emancipation?
God damn it!
I heard that.
Well, here at Prodigy, we have the solution for you. Bring them down to one of our many convenient clinics today and we'll diagnose them with a completely fictitious terminal illness and immediately enroll them in our patented synth program. After that, we'll get them out of your hair by giving them an adult body and working them like dogs day and night. You may be asking yourself, how is this even legal? Well, since we're a powerful corporation with trillions of dollars at our disposal and the best lawyers that money can buy, we get the unique privilege of saying, fuck the law. Act now and we'll double our standard financial compensation. That's right, we're not talking about a mere $1, but $200 here.
We're going to Applebee's after this.
Prodigy Corp considers this a donation. You'll be required to fill out paperwork to reflect our charitable status for tax deductions. So bring that asshole teenager or rowdy preteen down for a checkup and lighten the burden on your life and wallet today. Episode 2 starts with Joe D, Rashidi, and Osha being stalked by the Xenomorph. As they continue to search for survivors, they encounter only dead bodies. Joe casts doubts on them dying in the crash, however, as they are showing signs of inhaling a toxin. Also due to the fact that there's some documentation of other issues.
There's an incident code, 1562. 1562 foreign bodies. It's bad.
Bad how?
Alien.
He did it. He said the thing. Back on Neverland Ranch, Dame Sylvia and Peter Pansexual have a discussion on what the true purpose of their program is, which pretty much breaks down to he's bored.
People always think it's about money with trillionaires. I want to talk to somebody smarter than me. By giving Wendy a supercomputer for a brain, I'll finally be able to have an interesting fucking conversation.
Speaking of Wendy, that dumbass mission she requested is near its drop point. Now this will likely be referenced a few times going forward, so let's just get this out of the way. This idea is utterly retarded.
Your language is offensive. Fuck you!
Yes, all of these synthetics are super strong, hyper fast, and more durable than regular human beings can ever be by a huge margin. But that doesn't change the fact that they literally have the minds of children. They're not going to make the best decisions, and they have no actual search, rescue, or combat experience. Hell, they can barely even communicate with each other properly, as seen with this interaction between Wendy and, the Indian kid.
Are there gonna be dead bodies?
Don't think about that.
What are you thinking about?
Secret.
Look, there are a lot of characters here, so I'm just gonna call this one Raj. Down on the ground level, Joe, Osha, and Rashidi come to a point where they have to jump across. Both Osha and Rashidi successfully traverse the gap, but before Jolt and Joe can give it a go, he hears something behind him and investigates. And as we all know, that always goes so fucking well.
This is Prodigy Medic Hermit coming. There's a creature. She's loose.
How the hell did he not get injured from this fall? And you know, while I'm at it, why did he refer to the Xeno as a she? Is he really assuming it's gender? But luckily he can avoid being cancelled since no one can hear him on the radio anyway.
Humans in the audience.
I identify as a basketball.
In a brief flashback, we're shown that he was denied a chance at medical school because he was being forced to finish his contract with Prodigy. Yet another copy and paste scene from a previous entry. And this time it's from Romulus, which itself was made up of other knockoff scenes.
Get away from her, you bitch.
Unknowingly being observed by Wendy, he pleads his case with the random robot municipal worker by quoting Ice Age.
Have a heart. I'll face my fury.
Because you know, that's just a reference that everyone's gonna get in 2120. Somehow through her tablet, Wendy overrides the robot and responds.
Face your furry what?
What did you say?
Which is an insanely overpowered ability that practically breaks the lore. My guess is that they will explore this more and break it even further. In the present, the Lost Boys arrive only armed with the random paper cutter that Wendy brought. So when there's no immediate threat, a fully automatic rifle is the proper armament, but as soon as danger is present, practically nothing.
We are so screwed.
At Neverland Ranch, Peter Pansexual receives a call from Yutani, where he basically tells her to go fuck herself while balancing his tablet on his feet like a child.
You have something that belongs to me.
To be fair, it fell from the sky and broke one of my buildings. Any incursion on a Prodigy territory will be
Construed as a hostile act. This is what lawyers are for. You know, you have yours, talk to mine.
And then we'll negotiate a treaty.
After a very short briefing, the Lost Boys enter the building in two groups, the first consisting of Wendy and Raj, and the second one being all the rest.
By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
Guess I might as well go through and name them. Carrot Top. She was the cripple, so Wheels.
Oh my god.
Let's go with Jerome, and honestly, I have no idea what this dude is, so to be determined. Group 2 encounters some sort of enormous Venus flytrap that Billy Idlefit and TBD stay behind to observe.
Feed me Seymour.
sending the other three deeper into the ship to investigate. This is when they come across the super ticks and a dead cat being controlled by a mini fucking Shuma Gorath, which immediately attacks them. Since they are 5 beings with supercomputers for brains, they should be aware that they are not going to be able to handle the situation. But that would make far too much sense, and in case you haven't noticed, logic is not this show's strong suit. In the apartment building, Joe passes by some interesting yet suspicious looking artwork and runs into another soldier. After 10 seconds of explaining the situation, they continue trying to evacuate survivors when they stumble into this eccentric individual.
So much noise. We're having a dinner party, the Caspians.
There's a spaceship in the lobby.
Can someone please explain to me why the fuck a British dude is in an apartment in New Siam dressed as an 18th century French aristocrat? Actually, you know what? I don't even want to know. It really doesn't matter because he refuses to end his weird dinner party unless he gets a personal call from Peter Pansexual. After having the door slammed in their faces, the 2 PMC members are ambushed by the Xeno who was hiding near that artwork from earlier. Never mind that we had a high-definition close-up showing it wasn't there just a few minutes ago and there have been 2 people in this room the entire time. Somehow we're meant to believe that an 8-foot killing machine snuck in and instead of immediately killing them, decided to hide and wait till they spoke to King Louis XVII for no apparent reason. I get that they're trying to capture those surprise jump scare moments from the old films, but those worked because they were clever usages of lighting and backgrounds which the Xenomorphs blended against. They didn't just randomly spawn from thin air. Now that the Xeno has had its dramatic entrance, he does what he should have done 30 seconds ago and eats the soldier's face. King Louis then comes back to see what all the commotion is about when the Xeno chases him into his dinner party and slaughters all the guests. My favorite detail is that almost everyone is still sitting in their seat, which means they didn't try to flee from the Xeno at all. Coming across the crawling remains of King Louis, Joe narrowly misses being pounced on. It's actually quite amazing how not even a minute ago, 15 house guests were torn apart by this thing in 20 seconds, yet it's having trouble with a single medic who looks like he'd lose a weightlifting competition against SpongeBob. The plot armor is very strong with this one. Continuing the cycle of insane luck for Joe, Morrow has caught up to the Xeno and using a goddamn arc thrower electrocutes the fucking thing and paralyzes it temporarily. He then turns his attention to Joe and electrocutes his ass for good measure. 2 problems here. First, it's been a while since I watched the original movie, but I distinctly recall Ash saying something about the Xenos being silicone-based. Silicone is rubber, and I'm not sure how many of you paid attention in physics class, but it's pretty much the first thing you learn on day 1 that rubber doesn't conduct electricity. So either this shouldn't have worked at all, or that arc thrower is packing one hell of a fucking punch. This leads me to issue 2. Another cornerstone of electrical dynamics is that while rubber might not be a conductor, the human body sure as shit is. So if that gun was strong enough to shock a Xeno into unconsciousness, it should have put Joe into immediate fucking cardiac arrest. Those small science issues aside, the scene is completely devoid of any other illogical blunders as Morrow encases the Xeno in a cocoon gun that we've never seen before and drags it away. I love when prequels have better technology than the movies they predate. Just as Morrow is about to escape with the Xeno, he is caught by other soldiers from Diversity Division. After failing to convince them that he was hauling supplies because it's fucking moving, they attempt to arrest him, but the Xeno wakes up and kills 4 armed soldiers in 2 seconds flat. Like, who trained these motherfuckers? I'm convinced they're firing blanks here. The Xeno then turns toward Morrow, but because plot armor is standard issue around here, it doesn't kill him, opting instead to go after some soldiers it hears in the distance. Seriously, as long as you're a notable character important to the story, you get treated like the salad bar at a Chinese buffet. Joe comes to and shows absolutely no ill effects from having God knows how much electricity course through his body. He then ventures into a random room in the apartment where he finds an autographed baseball from Reggie Jackson. Why the fuck does a British dude with a pre-French Revolution fetish have this?
No fucking idea.
Also, this is hyper-convenient word assembly considering the fact this dude is, you know, named after a New York Yankee. I mean, what are the odds that this dude would have this instead of a ball from a World Series won by the Mets? Fucking, yeah, right.
And here's the first pitch, and the season's over.
Either way, Wendy and Raj find him and accompany him out of the apartment complex, but not before Raj wastes absolutely no time spilling the beans on Wendy and Joe's connection.
But my name's actually Arush and she's Masi.
My sister's name is Marcy.
Don't you dare.
That's your sister.
Wendy confesses her creepy cyber-stalking behavior and also that she's the reason Joe was declined his leave, which he doesn't even react to, might I add. Why the fuck didn't they wait for this shit and build up to it? This could have been such a great moment if they had taken the time to let it breathe and have a huge emotional payoff. But instead they waste it within 30 seconds, effectively making this a case of narrative premature ejaculation.
But I hear that that's coming quickly.
Obviously Joe is in disbelief, so he asks Wendy all of 2 goddamn questions that only Marcy could know the answers to, which is enough for him to accept that she's his sister. You know, considering the fact he was almost killed multiple times and this bombshell has been dropped on his fucking head, he's actually taking this pretty well. Once again, this was far too quick to just blindly accept this revelation. They actually could have recovered partially by having Joe refuse until significantly later, but after just a few questions, he's bought in completely. No sooner than this happens, they come across the xenomorph eggs, and just as Joe is about to look into one, he's attacked. This thoroughly confuses me. Is the goal of the xenomorphs no longer to have the facehuggers impregnate people? Because that's exactly what was about to fucking happen. My guess is that whoever assembled this episode has never actually seen how these eggs work. The episode comes to a close with Wendy telling Raj to quote-unquote guard the omelet. Whatever the fuck that's supposed to mean. As Wendy takes off to save Joe, who should 100% be dead, the trend of using completely irrelevant over-the-top licensed music continues as the episode fades to black. Has your wife been badgering you with annoying questions like, hey, where the hell is our kid? Has the spark simply disappeared and you feel it's time for an upgrade? Well, bring her on down to the same place you ditched your twatty teenager and we'll shut her ass up for you. At Prodigy, we'll make you a brand new wife with all the things you like and none that you don't. Worried she won't remember the recipe to your favorite casserole? Fret not, with our brain scan assurance, we promise to keep the good memories and ditch all the ones she brings up when she's pissed off, or this one's free. Taxes and fees still apply and down payment is non-refundable. Want your new wife to do that kinky thing your old wife wouldn't? Ask about our objection override commands for maximum control over your quality of life. Still not convinced? Well, come down to check out the various chassis options curated to fulfill every possible need. Blondes, redheads, and Latinas, we got them all. So whether it's yellow fever, that's racist, jungle fever, or any other fever, we guarantee total and absolute satisfaction. And that's not all. If the day you stop in happens to be your wedding anniversary, we'll knock 50% off your bill. So check out your local authorized Prodigy showroom and get your perfect woman today. We immediately rejoin Wendy, rushing to find Joe, while Billy Idlefint and the other Lost Boys gather the specimens from the lab. Carrot Top is clearly still scarred from her encounter with Shuma Gorath and finally asks the question she probably should have asked a long time ago.
Why couldn't we keep our names?
I don't know, I think it's because we're a secret.
As they all continue to bicker about their stupid-ass code names, Peter Pansexual gives new instructions to Billy Idlefint, which consist of gathering every alien lifeform and transferring them back to New Siam. Not really sure how the fuck he expects him to do that though, considering they were sent in with no supplies and most of the shit on the ship is broken. But hell, it's not like he sent in a bunch of completely untrained children, right?
They're babies!
Surprisingly, everyone including Billy Idlefint tries to warn Pansexual about the dangers, but he ain't having none of that because remember, he's a genius that no one can match. The only thing he's more concerned about than the specimens is the whereabouts of Wendy.
I sat slightly with her.
He's a child.
No shit.
So since Pansexual is so concerned, let's just check in on Wendy, shall we? Pretty much immediately, she located Joe, who is literally yelling, "It's a trap." But she ignores this and wouldn't you know it, gets trapped. As Wendy and Joe slowly approach the xenomorph, who, need I remind you, up to this point has shown us nothing but indiscriminate and unadulterated eviscerations, yeah, that xenomorph just decides not to attack them and jumps on the roof of the trailer they're in for no apparent reason. Using her fucking paper cutter, Wendy stabs the xeno through the metal roof, despite the fact that's not how paper cutters work, causing the acid to rain down, which for some goddamn reason doesn't melt the paper cutter right out of her hand. Or her hand, for that matter. Never mind that we've seen ship hulls, body armor, and that crazy metal that predators use almost instantly burned through by this very acid. No, forget all of those. This goddamn 1950s office room technology is gonna survive, though. Get used to this, because it's a selective plot device going forward. The xenomorph then flips the trailer because why not, and Wendy just fucking disappears. Joe, who has a suspicious lack of injuries, might I add, exits the trailer and is attacked yet again by the xenomorph, who doesn't kill him for like the 4th fucking time despite ample opportunity. Well, because apparently this is a toddler xeno who likes to play with his food when it's convenient for the plot, Wendy is able to use a giant goddamn shepherd's hook to grab the xeno by the mandible, save Joe, and throw the xenomorph into another room. But not before she's dragged in with it. Some the fuck how Wendy overpowers and kills the xenomorph because she's better than any other cyborg or android we've ever seen. Does anyone remember when Ash was beheaded with a fucking fire extinguisher? Because Pepperidge Farm remembers. Pepperidge Farm would also likely call bullshit on this whole scenario.
Bullshit! Bullshit!
Also, it's not like this is something we would want to see, is it? Don't you just love it when they lock all the action behind a blast door?
Open the blast door.
Well, at least I guess the Xeno got in a good shot, because Wendy is injured and collapses, shortly followed by Joe, who has lost a ton of blood from his minor injury of being stabbed through the fucking chest that he no-sold until just now. You know who we haven't checked in on in a while? Raj, who's still guarding the omelet. He's joined by Jerome, and the two do typical kid shit because, you know, they're kids. As they clown around, Morrow gets the drop on them, but doesn't kill them, opting instead to use this opportunity to exposition dump to these two weirdos he just met.
Here's a scenario. You're the chief security officer now. This ship finds something. Eggs.
Like these eggs?
Right.
Morrow essentially questions the other two as to whether or not they can make the decision to let everyone they cared for die because the mission called for it. This is actually the first compelling moment of the entire show as they play with the concepts of morality versus obligation and the lack of free will in a cybernetic age. Too bad it's just the best tasting bite of a turd.
It's still a shit sandwich.
Using a nearby terminal, Morrow turns his memories into some weird jelly disc that he then merges with Raj just as Billy Idlefin arrives to inform him that the ship is now property of Prodigy. Idlefin then corners Morrow with the eggs, but before one can emerge, Morrow jumps through the giant hole in the wall. On the off chance that this random, seemingly unrelated shit has captivated you and you were hoping to see how they get out of this increasingly convoluted situation, well, you're shit out of luck because they just time jump to the next morning. All specimens are collected and everyone who wasn't killed on screen is either fine or will be, though they can't locate Morrow. All of Weyland-Yutani's property is returned to Neverland Ranch, which in no way, shape, or form will cause a huge legal issue for Prodigy. Peter Pansexual goes to examine the specimens with absolutely zero protective gear. This dude is supposed to be a genius, but he just casually walks into a room full of alien species with God knows what diseases and doesn't even bother to cover his mouth with a piece of cloth. Man, Fauci would be fucking pissed. Because at least one of the characters here uses logic, Idlefin removes Peter from the situation and explains in great detail everything about the xenomorphs.
It's a parasite. It lays its eggs. They wait for organic life to draw near, only to hatch some kind of proto-creature. The proto-creatures must have gestated inside a human host.
This is of course all based on speculation, he even says so himself. But it's enough to get Pansexual to finally do something intelligent and lock down the specimens till more data can be extracted. Jerome and Raj are debriefed by this Mr. Clean-looking motherfucker who wants more details on Morrow. He then lets the two synthetics in on a little secret. The company records everything they see and hear. So I guess having access to their sight, hearing, and memories just isn't enough to gather info. They need to know how they were feeling. Or maybe it's because, like everything else in this show, it doesn't work when the plot demands.
It's one thing I didn't catch, though. What did he whisper to you at the end?
This actually brings up a great question. Where the fuck is Morrow? Well, he's openly walking through the streets of New Siam, you know, the place that has facial recognition software and cameras everywhere. Stealing a random cell phone, he calls Yutani, and for some reason he's shocked that the woman who answers isn't the one that he knows.
You used to know my grandmother.
There are such huge swings of intelligence for characters in this show. Well, this Yutani really wants the creatures back, as does Morrow, since in his own words, he has no life or home to return to. This is yet another aspect of these extended space journeys that they could play around with, but likely won't. It raises the question as to why any human would sign up for something like that. A year or two, sure, but 65? Inflation alone is going to make whatever money you negotiated not worth it at all. One other detail we notice is that Morrow asks what Prodigy is, but in the first episode he also asked those soldiers where he could find Peter Pansexual.
Where is Cavalier?
So which one is it? Does he know about this shit or not? Because it would seem that the word assemblers can't even remember what they put into the previous fucking episodes. Wheels goes to talk to Pansexual, but he's really not interested in speaking to her because it was really Wendy he sent on the mission, which leads to a line of questioning about why he favors her so much.
She's my favorite because she was first.
My dad always threw the first pancake in the trash.
Well, it sounds like your father's retarded. Wheels then asks about the process used to create them and explains that she's better than Wendy because she could give two fucks about others and just wants to be smarter. Intrigued by this, Pansexual offers up reading material and podcasts to listen to in order for Wheels to expand her knowledge base. This is so they can...
We can get together and play.
Does this mean I'm your favorite now?
No.
This dude keeps getting creepier with his child obsession. Morrow begins talking in Raj's head through the jelly disc from earlier. Explaining that he figured out what makes the Prodigy synthetics different, he tries to gain favor with Raj by offering up his friendship. Someone at Disney read this and thought, hey, that seems like a perfectly normal conversation to have with a child. What with Morrow licking his lips and Raj slowly nodding silently. Elsewhere in the facility, Carrot Top is having an existential crisis and then walks past the same motherfucker spraying the wall again. What is this dude doing? Seriously, if it doesn't have a significance by the end, I'm gonna be pissed. We then see her touch her own eye, simply because the word assemblers know this will disturb people on a very base level. This is the low-hanging fruit of shocking. Wendy awakens from her, what I guess we can call comatose state, and ventures presumably to find her brother, who is currently in surgery. At the same time, we join Wheels, TBD, and Billy Idolphin as they extract a facehugger by sawing through the side of an egg instead of forcing open the top, which would have made more sense. As they do this, Wendy somehow sneaks up behind them and is shown to have a psychic connection with the facehugger or some shit. She then passes out as they procure the xenembryo from the facehugger. How the fuck are these hyper-aware synthetics unable to tell that she's behind them? Also, I guess they just casually stroll past her unconscious body because Billy Idolphin brings the embryo to be placed in Joe's lung, which has been surgically removed. Which is a step that they didn't need to take because they show that they had livestock and other things that they could have used. The episode closes on Wendy still on the fucking floor, as we have yet another completely unrelated song play. So that's 3 episodes in the bag, and each one worse than the last. By far the biggest issue is the writing. There's serious inconsistency both internally and in regards to the franchise as a whole. It's very clear that the word assembly team was not communicating, as details that should have been caught simply weren't. There are also multiple instances of characters explaining the exact same things as if it's the first time we're hearing it, creating this overwhelming sense of deja vu. Which leads me to the big picture issue. There is basically zero reason whatsoever to set this before the first film. This could have easily been slotted into the giant time gap between Alien and Aliens, allowing references and allusions to events that have or will happen. Maybe even incorporating Amanda Ripley in some way. At this point, it's just comical how the first contact of LV-426 has become increasingly irrelevant to the series as a whole.
Oops.
One thing that's always been fun about the franchise was the general look that everything has. There's just something about the aesthetic of the older Alien films that I've always loved. The grungy, dirty, lived-in feel of those movies just made it feel so raw and real. We as the audience could almost smell the foul odors and feel the sticky gooiness of the xenomorph hives. This, coupled with the analog computer style that's been used since the beginning, always made the Alien universe incredibly unique amongst its contemporaries. Unfortunately, with the over-reliance of CGI since Prometheus and carrying on through this show, most of that lived-in realism has been lost. Sure, they kept the analog style, but nearly everything else feels clean and generic, creating an issue that could have easily been avoided if they had just stuck to the technology that was established in the first 2 films. And honestly, this isn't that big of an ask. In the lead up to the premiere episode, the showrunner promised a return to practical, saying that the xenomorph would use in-camera effects. So far that's been somewhat true, but the use of CGI is glaringly obvious. Also, the practical Xeno feels unfinished, flat, and doesn't look particularly good half the time. So far, it feels like another missed opportunity, a misunderstanding of why the franchise was popular and worked for audiences in the first place. Despite there being about 45 characters introduced in the first 3 episodes alone, very few of them have begun to develop in the slightest. Wendy is the one we can most charitably call the main one here. Played by Sydney Chandler, a nepo baby who has been in nothing of note and it shows. She plays the character wildly bipolar, which isn't doing her any favors. And neither is the writing. What they've created is an overpowered, undertrained badass who is a mixture of contradicting characteristics. So far, Wendy has no defined set of values or traits. She's whatever the word assemblers need her to be in the moment. Need whimsical and childlike? Well, here she is in her room talking to teddy bears. Need a warrior? She's gonna 1v1 a fully evolved xenomorph armed with practically nothing. Soft and sympathetic? She could do that too. She is everything, but that also means that she's nothing. Another in the long line of female characters that Disney seems to have completely forgotten how to write. The very antithesis of the other women in the franchise. Or at least the important ones. On the other side of the coin is Wendy's brother Joe, a character who has so much plot armor his name might as well be M1 Abram. No matter how you slice it, this dude should be fucking dead. But because he's needed for the story to progress, he isn't. And besides being unkillable, unlikable, and incompetent, his dialogue sounds less like emotional reactions and more like stock phrases. When you take all of this into account, he feels like an NPC required for the mission to be completed rather than a fully fleshed out character.
Sir, can you hear me? We got medical.
So far, Timothy Oliphant is completely wasted as Kirsch, a character who just gets lost in the fold of a dozen or so androids and cyborgs. I get a real sense that this was just a payday for him and he was brought in to have a face that people can recognize, which I guess works for both parties.
Give him 10 grand.
The person who is doing the best out of the entire cast is Babo Cisse, who's
No fucking idea.
who's playing Morrow. He's somehow elevating this character well above the terrible dialogue and delivering the only performance worth a shit. It's a classic case of an actor being significantly better than the script. And I really do wonder how tired he's gonna be from carrying this show by the time it's over.
I need a drink.
And that brings me to Boy Cavalier, being portrayed by Sam Blecken, a guy who looks like a less masculine Timothée Chalamet. Honestly, every time this guy is on screen, I want to shut the TV off because he's about as tolerable as a root canal. I get that he's supposed to be an insufferable boy genius, but that combined with the punchable face and 40-year-old in chat room vibes all create a perfect storm of wanting him to disappear. The rest of the cast is rounded out by actors that we've never seen playing characters that we can't name who have added nothing to the story. Hopefully by the next video I can speak more about them.
Who are you people?
So I opened this video by posing a simple question of whether or not this was a cash grab or if it was breaking the trend and worth your time. Regrettably, so far it's looking like the former. The show attempts to broach some heavy topics about humanity, but does not possess the ability to capitalize on them properly. Trying to act more intelligent and thought-provoking than it is, we're seeing what's basically the Dunning-Kruger effect in television form. Betrayed by both terribly inconsistent writing and piss-poor performances, showcasing a complete lack of awareness in its own incompetence. There's still time to recover, and I'm not 100% going to write it off just yet, but honestly, when was the last time something like this really dug itself out of a hole?
Fuck if I know.
And if that doesn't convince you that Alien Earth simply isn't as smart as it thinks it is, I don't know what to tell you.